Looking through inspiring graphic design portfolios and analyzing exactly what makes them so great is one of the best things you can do to take your own portfolio to the next level. In a competitive job market like we're seeing right now, you need to be doing everything you can to stand out to potential clients and hiring managers. That's why in today's video, we'll be looking through some incredible design portfolios built using Framer and breaking down how you can apply the same award-winning techniques to improve your own portfolio site. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first portfolio we're taking a look at today is Mason Wong. And so off the bat, I love that Mason is making a big visual impact, right? So he's starting off with this really big typography. He has this video that plays on scroll here. All of the text animates on from like a fade on, a blur. So everything feels very intentional and it's very impactful. So I think that's a big takeaway that more designers should be using for their own portfolios, is to remember that when someone goes to your website, you want to grab their attention right off the bat. So a big impactful visual, big in-your-face typography, things like that go a long way to just making people feel engaged, to capture their attention, and to make them want to keep scrolling. So I think Mason's done a really good job of that here. And while it's visually impactful, he's also providing content, right? So we've already learned his name. We know he's a visual designer. We saw the Chinese characters, so we're already kind of understanding some of his heritage. And then he also has some description text here as far as where he's currently working, as well as a bit of an elevator pitch about his approach to design. As we scroll down here, we're seeing that same ethos applied as far as the big in-your-face display type matched with the Chinese characters. So he's established a brand, kind of like an ethos, a theme for this website, and he's keeping that consistent throughout. And I think that goes a long way to showing potential employers that not only do you do good work that appears in your case studies, but also you understand how to build a brand for yourself. And that's a really challenging thing to do. I think anyone that's designed a portfolio website knows how challenging it is to brand yourself, to come up with your own identity for a website, as far as the fonts and colors and logos and things like that. So it's a challenge, but it's worth the effort. And so you can see that paying off here on Mason Wong's website, where everything feels very cohesive, it feels thought through. And so that's gonna go a long way with hiring managers and clients, showing that you kind of understand that approach to establishing a brand. And so this is a really slick animation here where the text kind of goes away, but the Chinese characters stay in the middle. So it feels very premium, it feels very intentional, where he didn't just think through, these are the sections I'm going to lay out, but he really thought through, how are they going to interact with one another? What's going to happen to these elements when I get to the next section? How are they going to disappear, fade in, fade out? So all of those little micro interactions, they seem simple on their own, but when you put them all together, it just creates this very premium, cohesive experience. And so that really sells you as a designer. And this is really slick down here where the hover state, it's English by default, but then when you hover, it then changes to those Chinese characters. So again, that branding, that ethos, showing that he's a multicultural designer and he's applying that to his work. I think it's really cool that he has that perspective and he's made it ever present throughout all the different aspects and thinking through the different ways to apply that as well. This is another really great attention grabbing section here with his image. It's very like moody and dynamic and grainy. And so that's actually a really cool effect, is that he has this grain effect over the entire website. I don't know if you can see that in this YouTube video, but he's applying that same look and feel to the photography as well, so it feels very intentional. And so here with this copywriting, we're seeing he's really driving home that idea that he is a cross-cultural designer. He has a unique perspective shaped by Hong Kong roots and an English countryside upbringing. So that's a really cool, unique value proposition that he's thought through. And he's not just talking about it in his about section, he's actually bringing that to life in the visuals of the website, which makes it very unique. It stands out and it's going to be memorable to clients and hiring managers, which is exactly what you want to be doing when you're designing a portfolio. So let's check out some of his work. So even the transition to the work page is really clean, feels very premium, the way it fades in, the words fade in from the bottom. So instead of just transitioning to that page and it loads in all in one go, that can be a little bit jarring. Everything feels intentional, it feels very premium, and it makes it nice to use. So coming down to the work here, All of these different mock-ups feel very well chosen. They feel very well art directed. They all look realistic, like actual photography. That's certainly an area that I see a lot of designers get into trouble, is using low quality mock-ups. You spend all this time making this beautiful design work, but then you throw it on an ugly mock-up and it kind of becomes distracting from the work itself. So Mason's done a really nice job here of avoiding that and using really high quality mock-ups. So let's take a look at this Liverpool FC case study here. Nice animation. It has some really beautiful easing, which is something I love about using Framer, is it has all these animations built into the tool to where you don't have to go in and custom code all the easing and things like that. You just click a button, everything animates on really smooth and clean, and it feels very premium. So I like this approach to the case study where he's just starting off with the business name as well as kind of the overview of the project, and then showing off this big, beautiful image here right at the top. This grabs attention. It makes people want to keep scrolling to learn more about the project. So I think this is all working really well. And then here, drip feeding us some information with some beautiful typography, has some really nice hierarchy to it as far as the title and the body font and the mouse font. And these are beautiful images he has here. I love the amount of context he's providing as far as the challenge, what he discovered, showing off the full breadth of the UI elements here is working really well. I even like with these images, as you scroll, they fade on from the bottom. So it's something that's barely noticeable. It wouldn't be a deal breaker if all these images were already on screen as you're scrolling, but the fact that they do fade on, even when it's so subtle and quick, it just makes everything feel intentional. It makes things feel like they have purpose, and it makes the website very pleasant to use. And so I think that's really the big takeaways from Mason's portfolio that you can apply to your own work is, number one, make an impact, right? When you go to the website, capture people's attention, have something visually striking that makes them want to see more of your work. The second is to have a point of view, right? So Mason does a great job of driving home the fact that he has a cross-cultural perspective. And that's not only present in the about section and the information he's providing, but that's even visually represented with the typography, with the Chinese characters, with the hover states of those buttons. So he's really thought through his unique value proposition, and he's made sure to build his brand around that and to remind you of that at every step of the way. And lastly, I think a great takeaway here is to sweat the small stuff, right? Like we talked about, all these little micro interactions throughout the website, they don't seem like a huge deal, but after you've visited the full website and you're thinking about, do I want to work with Mason or not? You kind of remember all those little micro interactions, all of those details that he took the time to think through, those little animations, the fade-ons, the transitions between pages, all of it adds up to create a very memorable, impactful web experience. All right, so the next portfolio we're checking out is bychudi.com. And as you can see, this is a really innovative and interesting and fun approach to a portfolio. What Chudi has done here is essentially lay this thing out like it's a Mac desktop. And so you can drag around these icons on your desktop. When you click them, they open up these little Word docs. He also has these incredibly fun interactions down here. So if you open up After Effects, it gives you this tongue-in-cheek message saying, cleaned up your footage folder. Too bad there's no way to connect all those Photoshop layers and videos. This is too much, and you can close it. So some really fun tongue-in-cheek interactions in here that if you're an art director or a creative director, you're gonna get a kick out of the interactions he has, and you're absolutely going to remember this portfolio, right? This thing is so different from anything else that you're going to be looking through. If you're a hiring manager going through 100 portfolios in a day, I bet this is one that you're going to put at the top of your list because it is unforgettable, right? So if we click into one of these projects here, he's still giving us a nice overview up at the top to kind of tell us what the project is, what it's about. We can see here he did design, typography, art direction, and photography for this project. So a really multidisciplinary project. And so looking through the design work here, he's doing a great job of showing off some of those nice big finished JPEGs, but then also showing the work where it actually lives, like on these vinyl album covers, to understand the work in context, right? That's so important when you're showing off a case study. Show the work in its final state, but then also show it in context. Where does it live? If this was just a square, I don't know what this is for, right? It could be an Instagram post, it could be an album cover. I don't have the context, but by putting it on the mock-up of the vinyl cover, now I can understand where this work lives. It allows me as the viewer to decide if this was successful or not. So that's really important to apply to your own portfolios as well. I love the use of texture he has going here with like aged paper that's been folded. That aligns really well with his like grungy kind of look and feel, which seems to be ever present through a lot of his work. So I think it's nice when you see a designer that has a very recognizable approach to their work, and a lot of the work kind of has that same sort of look and feel. I think that makes it really easy for clients who are in that space to know that you're someone that they want to be working with, right? When a client sees work that looks like their brand, that looks like the brand that they want to be, that makes it really easy for them to reach out. They feel confident that you're a great fit for the project. So certainly you don't have to have that approach. A lot of designers like myself, I would say, are more multidisciplinary, that our work is the look and feel of each client. But if you do have a look and feel, I think that speaks really strongly to a certain clientele. So I think this approach works really well if you know exactly who you want to work with, exactly what sort of clients you want to attract. I think this approach of just having a look and feel that you can really understand with every project goes a long way. This interaction of clicking on the Photoshop icon, it's a little bit too close to home, where it says, I won't save this file because there's not enough memory, even though you cleaned it up before starting to work. No autosave, pity, start from scratch. I think we've all been there. That hurts to read. So again, he knows his target demographic. He's speaking directly to them. These are very niche things he has on this website, right? If you come here and you're not in the design space, you have no idea what these icons are. You have no idea what these messages mean. So he has a great understanding of his target demographic, of his target audience, and he's speaking directly to them to where it becomes really fun to use this website and it's really memorable. So I think that's a great takeaway here, is really think about who your ideal client is, who are the people who are going to be on your website, and what sorts of things can you include in your website, from interactions, copy, the work that you're showing. What sorts of things can you include in your website that speak directly to that user? Because I think that niching down and really speaking directly to someone instead of everyone, that's where portfolio websites can really stand out, can become award-winning, can really start converting people, is when you have that point of view, you understand it and you execute it. This is really fun here as well, where if you click on the recycling bin, it's just kind of like his playground section of ideas that maybe didn't make the cut, things that aren't full case studies. I know a lot of designers have that on their portfolio sites, and so he does as well, but putting it in the bin, I think, is a really fun, tongue-in-cheek, clever way to approach it. So I think this portfolio site is a masterclass in how to stand out, how to break the mold, how to really drive home that you have a point of view and a perspective about design, and that you bring that to each project. I think in this day and age where there's so many applicants for every job and the market is overcrowded, doing something like this that's unique, that's gonna set you apart from all the other cookie cutter portfolios, can really go a long way to making you memorable, to get more callbacks, to get more interviews and things like that. So really think about how you could have fun with your own portfolio site, and this is a great reference on how to do that. All right, so those first two portfolios did a great job of being really unique and visually interesting and like in your face, which I think is a valid approach. But I also wanted to show off this portfolio from Belle Duffner, who also manages to be very professional, very memorable, very unique in her own way, but it's a more of a traditional portfolio approach, I would say. So I think this is a great example to take a look at how you can take a traditional portfolio approach, but still add a character, still make it unique, still make it memorable, and make it resonate with hiring managers. So right off the bat, when you load up this page, you have this really fun illustration that animates. It's nothing over the top, but it does a great job of showing off Belle's unique style. And on top of that, she's including some great copywriting here as well. It says, "Hello, I'm Belle. I'm a designer who makes magic through product and brand. Let's chat." So she's immediately introducing herself. I know what she does. I have an idea of her personality just from her illustrations and her word mark up there that's like written in marker. So it's fun, it's professional, but it's still whimsical, it's still unique, it's still uniquely Belle. As we scroll down here, I love the way that the case study thumbnails are animating on. And then I love the footer down here at the bottom. I think that the copywriting is really standing out to me, where it doesn't just say contact or get in touch or something like that. She says, let's make some magic happen. And then she has these little call outs as far as motion design, illustration, UX, branding, research. So visually, it's really fun, but she's also driving home what she does and her approach to doing it. So I think this is a really great example of how to use copywriting to drive home your unique value proposition and to make yourself more memorable than if you just had a contact me button down here. So checking out these case studies, it's really cool that the cursor goes from the circle to expanding to say view case study. So the custom cursor is a lot of fun. Again, it's one of those micro interactions that just adds a level of thought and detail orientedness to this website that makes it feel more premium. Clicking into this headspace case study, I love that animation. The transition was a lot of fun. Each letter animates on, but it wasn't too much. It's not over the top. And then the focus is still on the work, right? We have this huge full screen, beautiful image from Headspace. So this is making a really nice impact. I love the typography here. I love the font that she's chosen for the title font. I feel like these humanistic serif fonts are becoming more rare to see, especially on websites. So I think that's really jumping out to me as something that is memorable, that sets her apart from a lot of different portfolios that I'm looking through. And I think these different sections and the way she's laid them out is doing a lot of heavy lifting from a hierarchy standpoint. She's calling out metrics, which I always love to see, to show that this work is not just something that looks good, but also it got real results, tangible impact. That's the sort of stuff that hiring managers want to see. And so she's done a great job there. And I love to see all these awards up here. So she's showing off social proof that this project was an undeniable success. It performed well through metrics. It won awards. So it's not just about visuals, it's about impact. These are really beautiful images. I love the bento grid she's using here with all the different colors are interacting really well. These are really beautiful interactions she has here where the phones kind of spread apart and these kind of gravitate towards the screen when you mouse over. Really premium, really pleasant to use. And then this image down here is an on-scroll effect. So everything just feels very intentional. She's thought through how every single element of this website is going to animate onto the screen as someone goes through it. And I love the use of icon boxes here too, right? She could have just taken user goals and features and wrote that out as a long paragraph, and it would have been totally fine, but fine isn't good enough. She took that and she made them into icon boxes. She broke them down into easily digestible sections. She's using iconography, visuals to reinforce what she's writing about. And so this makes it very engaging to read this case study, and it makes it really easy to skim the information while still getting the main points home. And so really that's the main point of a portfolio website, right? Is to sell what you do, to show off your impact. And so if you're just using really long paragraphs of text or no text at all, then you're not doing that, right? People are just scrolling past it. They're just looking at visuals. They're not understanding the impact. So finding ways like this to make it pleasant to read the information and to understand the impact that you had on the project, I think is a really great thing to apply to your own portfolio. So down here, we have some more beautiful animations, more icon boxes to drip feed us more information. All the different characters are a lot of fun and really cute. And so we're seeing kind of that ethos that she showed us in her hero section on the homepage with those illustrations, and kind of that whimsy is now coming through in the actual work. So we know that this is a Belle project. We can tell from the look and feel that she brought her perspective to this, and it's very clear to see that. So this was really a masterclass in how to do a large case study while showing off all these different deliverables, but making sure it's still engaging. I still want to keep scrolling through this project and learning more. There's been a ton of different deliverables and illustrations and the physical space that they put together and the thought process, but through the use of the iconography, drip feeding the information, showing off all these beautiful images and illustrations, the use of motion to keep things visually appealing, it all comes together to create a very pleasant case study that you really want to get all the way through. So this is an incredible one to use as inspiration for your own case studies. When you're thinking about how to showcase the work, when you're thinking about what sorts of things should I be including, this is a great example of exactly what to do there. All right, so next up, we're back to a unique portfolio with a lot of character that grabs your attention and makes you remember it. So this is the portfolio of Thibaut. He is a 3D and motion generalist freelance who makes products dance. Your one-stop shop with more disco. So again, just here in the hero section, we're seeing a ton of character from the visuals as well as the copywriting. So even when you first load up into this, everything moves, right? So he says, let's make it move, and then he reinforces that. So the copywriting and visuals are working together really well. Based on like the retro theme that we're seeing here, you can already kind of guess what his approach is to design, the sorts of projects he likes working on. And then as we scroll down here, we certainly see those suspicions get confirmed. We're seeing a lot of like retro tech here with the Macintosh 128K, the nostalgia alphabet, these little VHS shelves and old school cameras and the Atari controller. It's just a ton of fun, right? He obviously is like a technology nostalgist. So we're seeing that not only in the projects, but also in his approach to his portfolio website as well. I love that these videos are auto playing as I'm scrolling here. So it's not just a static still that I have to click into to kind of understand what the project was. I can just scroll this homepage and see the work that he's done as a motion designer, auto playing in high quality. It's not slowing down, it's not jittery. So he's optimized them really well. So this is a very pleasant homepage to browse, and I'm getting a great understanding of his approach to design and the sorts of things that he works on just from 10 seconds on the homepage. So this About Me section is also a ton of fun, a lot of character. So if you scroll over these images, you can kind of see these super fun, personality-driven images of him, even the stickers on this water bottle. You see the Framer logo, you see After Effects. So you kind of understand his approach to design just from those stickers. And so again, this is a great way to show that your portfolio doesn't have to be clinical. It doesn't just have to be a white background with blocks of thumbnails. You can take it and make it something that shows off your personality, that is memorable, that is uniquely you. Because again, I think in this day and age, the competitiveness of the market, being you and showing off exactly what you bring to the table, I think that's the only way that you can really stand out. And again, this trend continues where getting to the footer is where a ton of fun lives. You can really go crazy with it. So here we see this like keyboard here. And as you mouse over the keys, they actually indent like a real keyboard. So he's using physical items from the things that he loves and turning that into an interface in his web design. So this is a lot of fun. It's easy to use and navigate, but again, it's oozing personality. I really love this footer down here. Coming back up here to look at a project, this is something I missed on my first scroll through, but your mouse changes to these little retro bitmap icons for each of the elements that you're hovering over. So again, these little moments of delight that make your portfolio fun to use, that makes me want to keep scrolling to discover new things. Like I missed that my first go around. So by spending more time on the website, I'm having more fun. It makes me want to keep going through the different pages and the different case studies. So that's a master class in delight. So I think this portfolio is yet another example of how to do something that stands out, that's going to be remembered by taking your own personality, your own interests, your approach to design, the sorts of projects you like to work on, and then applying that to the actual portfolio site itself. And it's one of those things, right? We're creatives, we're designers. Use that creativity, use those design chops, think about how you can have some fun with it and really make your work stand out. All right, so the next portfolio we'll be taking a look at is Alejandro Mejias. And so I think this portfolio is a great example of how you can take some of that unique, attention-grabbing visuals that we've been seeing on a lot of the other portfolios, but then still combining that with a more traditional portfolio approach where it's still very clean, it's still really focused on the work, it's not doing anything too crazy. So I think this is one of those nice middle grounds that's kind of taking the best of both worlds. So off the top, we're seeing this animating 3D that we can control. So I think that's a really cool attention-grabbing element. The second you come to the website, it's fun to spin around and play with it and think about how did he actually create this? So I think that's a nice moment to start with. think he's also treating this kind of like a dashboard, right? There's a lot going on here in the corners where we can see he's promoting a video of himself talking at a conference. You can book a call down here in the bottom right. He has some information about himself and the navigation. So there's a lot going on here, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. He's using the white space really well. This A is fun to use, but it's not over the top. It's attention grabbing. It gets you intrigued to look through his work, but it's balancing functionality with form. As we scroll down here, I like the use of Z space to put the featured work above the hero section. It's nice to see that the font here of featured work, like his display font, matches the A here. So it's kind of like a bitmap pixely font. It's very like retro meets modern tech. He again has established a brand that you can kind of understand in just a few seconds. And as you're scrolling, you're seeing that brand reinforced. I like the use of animation he has here. So he's showing off a lot of these little micro UI elements in a looping animation. So it's not just a static image. It's intriguing us to want to learn more about this project. It's kind of catching our eye. It's making us stop our scroll. So I think that's a really good use of motion. And then something unique about Alejandro's site is if you click the read full case study button, it actually opens a case study in the homepage. So that's something I haven't really seen before. It's a unique way to showcase the work. Instead of clicking us off to a new page, it just expands the information about that case study right underneath of the thumbnails. He's starting us off with that overview, kind of the information we need to understand the project. This is a really beautiful motion piece. So right off the bat, he's capturing our attention with some really well done motion at a high frame rate. And so even something as simple as corner roundness and a grid, instead of just putting it up there as a JPEG, which would have felt pretty boring and plain, he animated the grid, he animated the corner roundness. It just adds a level of intentionality to your design that takes it to the next level. And these are the sorts of things that help you go from good to great, right? So this is a great example of how to do that. Another thing to notice here is that there's a lot of motion, but nothing is taking a long time to load. So Alejandro's done a great job of optimizing all of these animations to make sure that not only are they attractive, that they're high res, but they're not gonna slow down the website. And so that's a balance you need to strike through your hosting as well as through your optimization of your videos and your GIFs and things like that. So he's done a great job of balancing those two things here. And then so as we come down to beneath the case studies, he has an other work section. It's really attention grabbing using this lime green brand color he has. And it's a really fun interaction again, where you can spin around these images. It's like a carousel, but it's interactive. So another little moment of delight to make you remember using this website, to make you have some fun with it. It's not just boring design work, right? We get to be creative all day as a job, right? That's really cool that we get to do that. And so thinking of ways to make it fun again, I think that's really important. And so Alejandro has done a great job of that here. And I love the huge in-your-face about typography. It's kind of a non sequitur. He went from like the white, more clinical case studies, and now that we're getting to the about section, the other work, he's using that lime green, he's using huge in-your-face typography. It's making sure you're still paying attention. So I think that's really clever there as well. And it's nice that this whole website is one page, right? So up here at the top, you can still use the navigation to get around, but if you like what you're seeing, if you're having fun browsing Alejandro's website, you can just keep going, keep scrolling. You'll get to the about section, his resume, his accolades, social proof of who he's worked with. And then down here at the bottom, we see that A from the hero section once again. So he's kind of driving it home by bringing that back into play. And so I love this footer section as well. And I think this is a great example of how to have a website that is fairly restrained, that's still minimal. You're using a lot of white space, things like that, but you're still making sure to make it memorable, that you're driving home your own personality, your own brand. So a great example of that here. So we've looked through some amazing portfolios today that have all taken different approaches to showcasing their work. But the one thing they all have in common is that all of these sites were built using Framer, who is also the sponsor of today's video. I personally love using Framer myself. I use it for my own portfolio website. I've tried all of the different web design platforms over the years, and I have to say I was blown away by how easy it is to use Framer and how powerful it is to where if you can dream up an idea, you can build it in Framer. For those of you that want to check it out, be sure to use the link and promo code in the description down below for 1 free month of Framer Pro. All right, guys, I hope you found these portfolio sites as inspiring and helpful as I have. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now go out there and make a ruckus.